Alright, a few people have been asking for a gathering guide, so I'm just going to talk through everything I look at to stay safe in this video. So first of all, there are only two options as a weapon. Either the bloodletter or the double-bladed staff. The bloodletter is better when you're skinning and when you're gathering everything but hide. Then the double-bladed staff is better because it's easier. Not because it's easier. It's because you get farther. You can travel farther with your abilities than with the bloodletter. The advantage of the bloodletter is the execution on low HP enemies, which also works on animals, so it's easier to kill them and quicker. Regarding the items, you always have to pick the spells that give you the most safety. There's no exception, and you cannot pick spells that will put you into combat. Like in theory, throwing logs sounds fun and nice, but it will put you into combat and you could die because of it. So cleansing any CC can save your life, so that's usually the best. Blocking isn't terrible either. Here the invisibility is great. The wind wall, same problem as with the logs. It can put you in combat and just kill you by doing that. The purging shield might put you into combat, so I'm not really sure if this is an option, but invisibility is really good, so probably better to take the invisibility. Here, Wanderlust, running, or however it's called in English, just worse versions of the sprinting shield. You always need to have an invisibility potion, because invisibility is really one way to get into safety when you're actually losing your mount, which is really already terrible, because when you lost your mount, you're like 50 to 75% dead unless you're only getting chased by a single person. But when you're getting ganked by a single person, it's really not that dangerous if you're playing it correctly, because you have more mobility than them. It's actually not possible for them to catch up with you after they use cooldowns on you to get you off your mount. Which is why it's always very important to have your mount close, so you can mount up once you see a red name on your, or an orange name on your screen. So that's it for the abilities. You basically always have to use in Fort Sterling Cape the cleansing of stuns, silence, or roots. It's just way too good, and it also works while you're mounted up, so that's really beneficial. Really beneficial. There's like no other alternative for gatherers. As for mounts, you really want rather fast mounts. You really need fast mounts, because most of the time only big groups are dangerous to you when you're gathering, and the only way to get away from big groups is by walking a very efficient way through the map towards exits where they cannot follow you. For example, into the roads, or to an invis potion in a black zone starter map, or back into the city, or into an hideout, or whatever, or a territory. It all works. You just have to get there before they can cut your way off. That's why you need a fast mount. You really need a fast mount. But you also need carry weight. So that's always the compromise you have to make. But you cannot go with too slow mounts or you will just die for free. If they have like 3 or 4 people, it's really easy to cut your way off. If they are more than this, you're basically always dead if you use a slow mount. So now I'm going to go into the black zone with this rather cheap gear, so I get more ideas for what I can talk about, for what I actually look at and what I do to stay safe while gathering. On a short note, before this, while gathering, it's really handy to take tools with you that are not necessarily the main resource of the map that you are going into. I'm going into the forest zone right now, so the main resource there will be wood, but there's also stone and hide, so you can take those tools with you as well and gather only the highly enchanted ones or so. While you're roaming through these maps, it's very likely that you will stumble upon some highly enchanted secondary resources. So it's worth it. And always take journals with you, even after the update. It's still worth it to take journals with you. Even if they feel slower, even if the price is lower, it's still bonus loot. Because the goal is to die at like one gathering tour of like 10 or 15 or 20. So it's really important to put all your priorities on safety first. Because the less you die, the more time you can spend in the zones, the deeper you can go, and the more profit you will make. So let's enter. First of all, you need to spam your minimap the whole time and look for the ways that you can actually walk. Oh, look at this guy. Well, why not? Well, he's not worth anything. Thanks for the donkey. Oh, there's an enemy. So time to get my mount up. Always have your mount up. Or very close to you. So I am a tier 6 wood gatherer right now, basically, because I have my tier 6 axe. I could gather tier 7 wood, but it goes really slowly when you have only tier 6 unlocked yet and only use a tier 6 axe. So it's usually not worth it. And for wood, generally you need to look at all the prices. You need to look at all the prices and think about, is it worth to gather this resource? Unless you're mainly out in the black zone for leveling. That's a different story then, because lower tier resources gather way faster. So it's actually faster for leveling if you're gathering low tier resources to unlock like tier 7, tier 6, tier 8. Alright, so while I'm wandering around here and talking, you can see I'm always looking at the minimap and checking which ways are actually walkable. It's really safe to gather around these places here at my cursor, because you can always take an invincibility potion, which also makes you invisible, but that is not very important, but the invincibility is what counts. So you're always really safe there. You're also really safe close to roads portals. I mean, sure, if it's only a green portal with two, how do you say this? 2 stacks, then people could come and just block it. When 2 people go through, then you will not be able to walk through it. Like, here's only 1 stack left, so I would really need to be careful if I wanted to use this for escaping. So, a big stack. You need to be careful with big stacks. I don't have... Oh, 5.2, that's actually worth some money. You actually need to be careful with these stacks. Always have your mount next to you while you gather it. And basically, after you start gathering anything, you always move your cursor to your mount. So all you have to do when you see a name anywhere on the screen, you just mount up, run away, and then you can come back a few seconds later or maybe a few minutes later, depending on what you believe is going on. You also don't need to be worried too much about red circles on the map. Like, if there was, for example, a red circle here on the map, even if it was big, and it's just moving to the northwest and passing through, no problem at all. So here, for example, there are some random people and they are not really dangerous. They don't seem to be very interested in me. They are not following me. So I can just walk a little bit farther and start gathering again, basically. So, like, I mean, this level 2 wood actually not worth anything. So if I'm tier 6 right now, then I will prefer to go into a tier 6 forest zone. So in order to do this, going to the northwest and then again into the northwest will be the best option right now, I believe. I could also go into a tier 7 zone, which is rather close, but tier 7 zones are far more contested. Like, everybody goes there, you know? At least everybody from the city portals and the people that have their hideout and territories in there. Because some tier 7 resources are worth a lot of money even without enchantment. And let's not talk about enchanted tier 7 resources. Those can make you rich already. So I'm going to go into the tier 6 forest zone. So I'm always checking this minimap in large. So because when I'm walking around there and for example somebody came from the top to me from the north, I would know that I can escape here, I can escape here, I can escape this way. And it's really important to have this always in your mind, in case of some gankers or whatever coming your way. This guy, for example, is definitely a ganker. He's playing claws, he's playing this armor, which is only played by gankers, only. And also hunter shoes are also a ganking item. And he's chasing me, and there's a friend of him. There you saw my Fort Sterling cape, which already saved me. I mean, it's potentially not necessary. It was potentially not necessary to have it, but it's much safer because I didn't lose my mount. And like this, they are chasing, so I'm trying to get to dodge their skill shots, of course, and try to get to an exit of the map. Because now I'm invincible. Also, they dismounted, so they are very slow and they lose sight of me, so they cannot know where I actually went. Like, I could have gone to the west, I could have gone to the southeast, I could have gone the way I'm actually going. They cannot tell, so they cannot chase me anymore. And I can continue gathering. So, because I got chased here, I will actually go into the tier 7 zone. because I'm so close, but but I would not recommend doing this. Excuse me. Being ill is not fun. Alright. Tier 6. Tier 7 zone. So, since I'm wearing my tier 6 gear, it actually makes sense for me to gather tier 6 resources, even if they are not enchanted. And you want to use your pork pie, of course, to get a bonus. I could gather the tier 7 resources, but it's usually not worth it when I'm only tier 6. In reality, I'm tier 8, so it would be worth it, especially if I have my gathering gear equipped, so I get all the bonuses. But like this, I really only want to gather tier 6, nothing higher. And for stone, with my tier 5 stone gathering tool, I really only want to gather tier 5 stone. I could have, of course, brought my hide gathering gear here, because hide is actually the second most occurring resource in forest. So that's actually usually a pretty good place to gather hide, but everyone knows about that. Hide is very common here. Also, the animals in the forest zones can drop very expensive babies, so it's usually very contested. Looking for tier 6 wood. Somebody just went invisible or entered a dungeon right there. I just saw a name there for only a very short moment, and I went closer. So either he went invisible or he entered a dungeon. So while I'm running around here, I'm trying to not go into terrible, how do you call this, places where you only have one way of escaping. While I'm running around here, I can move to the north, to the east, to the west, to the south. So I have multiple choices when I'm actually being ganked. So while I'm gathering, I always have my stack right next to me. I don't move far away from it or anything. I see a name, so I instantly mount up and walk into a different direction. So this is tier 5.1. Let's see how much it's worth. It was 3 stacks. I gathered it pretty quickly. So actually, considering the time I spent for getting it, is not terrible. So it's actually possible to gather it. When you reach higher tiers and higher speeds at gathering higher tiers, you need to reevaluate what is worth it and what is not worth to gather, to maximize your own profit. Sometimes it's even sensible to not, like for example, if you want to gather wood, it might make sense to go into swarms or into what else, where else can wood occur in the highlands. So it might make sense to go into the highlands or into the swamps if you're failing to find a lot of wood in the forest zones. Like, everything is gathered here already, so I would either suggest to go deeper Like, I could go, always need to be careful, you always need to check your screen. You have only short time to check this. I would suggest to go this way and maybe check if there's some more tier 6 wood in the high tree cliffs, for example. When your map that you are currently trying to gather is pretty empty already. So nice that I actually got ganked while filming this video. This was really handy. So you also don't need to worry too much about when you see skulls on the map, which means that somebody got killed there. Just, especially if they are so far away from you. Here's a roads portal as well, so I could gather around in this area. Oh, here's a dude that's almost dead. But he had his mount really close to him, so he is not in danger at all. If I dismounted next to him, I wouldn't be able to kill him. 10k silver, thank you very much. That's why you always have to keep your mount close to you. If somebody dismounts close to me, he has 5 seconds until he can attack me or use spells. So, like, I will need like half a second or 1 second to mount up and then run away. It's really hard for them to catch up with me then and hit me with any spells. So let's see if I find some more tier 6 wood right now, right here. Here are a lot of enemies. This was actually really dangerous. When you see names on the side of your screen, you can tell if they are mounted up or dismounted by if they have this yellow line below their HP and energy. You really need to pay attention towards this. The guy that came from the south didn't have this yellow line, which is why I can tell that he is dismounted. And he might be charging at me with full speed, which he actually did. But for some reason he didn't attack me, maybe he was lagging or something. But this was a dangerous situation. When you see people dismounted, you really need to run, and you need to run far. Because it might mean that there is a group close to them that are also dismounted and trying to cut your way off, and if you get dismounted, you will really have a hard time actually surviving. But you have some tools. You have, like, with the blood ladder here, you have 3 jumps, which is a very far distance actually when using them all together, and that's the plan. If you're getting dismounted, you want to use all 3 jumps into one direction, and the direction should be towards an exit, something that will save you, like this exit there into another map or your territory or into a roads portal so you can mount up again or something. Like, imagine I get dismounted, so I want to use my W, my E and my Q in the same direction. Then I want to pop a invis potion and oh, actually this doesn't work with this combo. Okay, so either with this build, either you pop your invisibility potion and run, you try to run out of the sight of the enemy so they don't see your name anymore, and then you can either mount up or run into an exit where you get your invincibility and then mount up. The good thing about this mobility is that it cannot be purged. It's a channeling, so it can be aborted by stuns or something, which is dangerous. You need to really be careful about this, which is no problem if you first use your 3 jumps though. And then you can just use this and you're really quick for a really long time, and then you need to try to mount up or you die. Or you enter a blue dungeon. Because if you enter a blue dungeon, it might be possible that they won't be able to find you anymore. So, those are some of the basic steps I use to stay safe. if you want to see the steps of how to actually disengage step by step when you lose your mount, you can check out the video that I will show somewhere here on the screen, because this is the end of the video, and if you want to know this, it's a step-by-step guide with written sentences without talking, but you can just read it and see what you need to do when you lose your mount.